Fear has stolen more dreams than failure ever could. Think about that for a moment. Failure may knock you down, but fear convinces you not to get up. Failure is honest. It teaches, it refines, it reveals, but fear is deceptive. It whispers, don't try, don't risk, don't hope. And the tragedy? Most people listen. Now here's the secret the wealthy understand. It's not failure that ruins people. It's the fear of it. The rich have learned to treat failure like feedback, not a finish line. They expect it. They prepare for it. And when it shows up, they study it, like a scientist studies a breakthrough hidden inside the mess. So today, I will teach you how to transform every setback into strategy, how to build the discipline to try again, smarter, not bitter. You'll discover how the right questions after a failure can reveal the next door of success. And by the time we're finished, my goal is simple, that you no longer fear failure, but welcome it as a companion on your journey to wealth. Not as something to run from, but something to learn through. Let's begin. Let me share something I've learned. Through experience, through both bitter lessons and rewarding victories, success is not built on perfection. It's built on the kind of failure that doesn't break you, but builds you. The wealthy understand this. They don't fear failure, they train under it. Each fall is part of their preparation for bigger things, bigger challenges, bigger responsibilities, and yes, bigger rewards. See, emotional toughness doesn't come from comfort. It comes from being tested. It comes from standing in front of something that could break you and refusing to let it. Most people don't fail because they lack talent. They fail because they can't handle the weight of temporary defeat. They crumble under embarrassment, or fear what people will think, or give up after one misstep. But those who go on to succeed, and not just succeed, but succeed wildly, they treat failure like a teacher, not a thief. They don't flinch when they fall. They reflect. I remember a time early in my business career when a venture I had put everything into flopped completely. The marketing was wrong, the timing was off, and the partnerships I'd chosen weren't aligned with my values. For a moment, I felt like disappearing. That's what the poor mindset whispers: disappear, deflect, deny. But I resisted the urge to run emotionally. I didn't complain, didn't point fingers. I did what I always advise now. I took a pen, a journal, and 30 minutes of silence. I called it a personal board meeting, just me, my failure, and my facts. I asked questions like an auditor, not an emotional wreck. What decision did I make? What signals did I ignore? What patterns do I notice? That session became the blueprint for my next success. Because once you document failure like a scientist, you stop fearing it like a child. The poor mindset panics, then hides. The wealthy mindset pauses, then plans. There's a critical difference. When failure comes, and it will, your first instinct will try to take you into panic, self-blame, or even guilt. That's emotional reflex. But success isn't emotional, it's strategic. Practice this. The next time you experience failure, schedule a 30-minute debrief session. Treat it like a financial report. You don't weep over your expense sheet, you analyze it. Do the same with your setbacks. Write down what happened, what could have been done differently, and what you'll change moving forward. Do it while it's fresh. Do it before the story grows distorted. And do it with the cool discipline of someone who expects to win next time because they learned this time. Failure builds emotional endurance, the ability to carry weight, not just wish for reward. If you plan to grow wealthy, you must grow sturdy. Bigger money comes with bigger decisions, bigger risk, and bigger disappointments. You'll lose deals. You'll miscalculate investments. You'll trust the wrong person. You'll launch a product that flops. But every one of those moments is a workout for your emotional muscle if you let it be. The stronger your emotions, the more you can endure. And the more you can endure, the more ground you can cover. The wealthy don't seek pain, but they don't avoid it either. They use it. They repurpose discomfort into clarity. Instead of curling into self-pity, they extract insight. Instead of seeing failure as a sign to stop, they see it as a signal to adjust. The poor mindset says, "Why me?" The rich mindset asks, "What now?" The truth is, you'll never outgrow failure, but you can outgrow the way you react to it. The poor want protection. The wealthy want preparation. Learn to respond to setbacks with maturity, and your wealth will begin to reflect it. Not because money avoids mistakes, but because wealth belongs to those who make better decisions after them. So start practicing today. Think like an accountant, not a victim. Treat failure like data, not doom. Your emotions aren't bad, they just need direction. Aim them at growth, not guilt. And with every failure you face this way, you're not getting weaker, you're getting wealthier. Let me tell you something I wish someone had told me earlier in life. The pain of failure is wasted if you don't write it down. If you're serious about wealth, not just income, not just survival, but long-term, sustainable, responsible wealth, then you need a system for turning setbacks into strategy. The wealthy don't just experience failure like everyone else. They record it, they review it, they study it like a textbook, because they understand that every mistake, every loss, every misstep contains the seed of future profit, but only if you capture the lesson while it's fresh. Let me tell you what I do. I keep what I call a failure journal. It's not fancy, just a notebook, or even a folder on your laptop, but its value beyond measure. After every financial misstep, and I've had plenty I write, not paragraphs of venting or pages of frustration, I write with structure, with intention, like an investigator at the scene of a fire. I ask 3 questions every time. What happened? Why did it happen? And what will I do differently next time? Let's say you made a poor investment you bought into a course, or a piece of software, or a stock, based on emotion or hype, and it didn't pan out. Don't just chalk it up to bad luck. That's what keeps people broke, letting failure slip through their fingers without grabbing the wisdom in it. Sit down and ask, what exactly did I miss? Was it due diligence? Was it a rushed decision? Was I listening to the wrong person? Write it down. Make the invisible visible. I remember a time when I lost a few $1,000s on a business tool. The salesperson was convincing, and I didn't take the time to verify the numbers or ask the right questions. The product under-delivered, and the company offered no refund. Now, I could have stewed in that frustration, or just moved on and told myself, well, lesson learned. But instead, I pulled out my journal and did the work. What exactly happened? I got emotionally sold. Why did it happen? I skipped due diligence. What would I do differently? Add a 48-hour cooling period before any big decision time to research, review, and revisit. That one entry saved me thousands over the years. Because once it's written down, it becomes part of your financial GPS. You stop navigating blindly and start building a map. That's what the wealthy do. They don't just move on, they move forward, informed. The poor make emotional decisions and bear the consequences. The rich make structured decisions and document the consequences. It's not about being perfect, it's about being prepared. You can use your failure journal for all kinds of moments, bad spending choices, missed deadlines, failed deals, lost clients. Don't just remember them vaguely. Archive them. Why? Because your memory fades, but your patterns repeat. If you don't write it down, you're almost guaranteed to repeat it. But if you do, you start to recognize warning signs, recurring behavior, and emotional triggers. And you start to make decisions not from fear or guilt, but from clarity and data. Imagine 10 years from now, you've built a vault of financial wisdom not from books alone, but from your own life. Every mistake cataloged, every lesson extracted, every entry another step toward mastery. That's how the wealthy turn pain into profit. That's how they stay ahead, not by avoiding failure, but by treating it like a cash flow mentor. So I challenge you, starting today, create your own failure journal. You don't need the perfect notebook, just a commitment to capture what most people try to forget. After every financial disappointment, Take 15 minutes. Write what happened, why it happened, and what you'll do better. If you make that a habit, you'll stop fearing failure and start profiting from it. And when others repeat their mistakes, you'll repeat your profits. One of the smartest things I ever learned about money and about life is this: never test the depth of a river with both feet. Yet I see people do it all the time, especially when they're eager to escape financial pressure. They go all in on one big idea, one stock tip, one business deal they heard from a friend at a dinner table. They risk the house, the savings, the reputation, and then wonder why it all collapsed like a house of cards. The truth is, wealth isn't built by reckless leaps. It's built by strategic steps. The wealthy don't gamble, they test. They create what I call a try small, fail small system. This principle changed everything for me. Early in my career, I thought success came by thinking big and betting big. So I put a large sum into a business idea based on a single conversation and a gut feeling. It failed not because the idea was wrong, but because I had no system of testing it before scaling it. I didn't try small. I dove in with both feet, and it took me years to recover. From that point on, I adopted a new philosophy. Test with $100 before you risk $10,000. Test with 10 customers before you build a warehouse. Test with a few hours a week before quitting your job. Smart failure is strategic failure. The wealthy understand this. When they have an idea, they don't throw everything at it right away. They break it down into a pilot test, a sample, a prototype, a survey, a soft launch. They ask, will people respond to this? Will this solve a real problem? Can I prove the concept with minimal risk? If the answer is yes, then they scale. If the answer is no, they walk away with a lesson instead of a loss. Think of this like testing a recipe. You don't cook it for 100 guests the first time. You try it once on a quiet evening. You tweak the ingredients, you adjust the temperature, and when it finally tastes just right, that's when you invite people to the banquet. Building wealth is no different. You're testing how ideas perform in real conditions. You're refining your recipe for success before you serve it to the world. Now, some people say, well, doesn't testing slow me down? Number testing saves you from disasters. That would slow you down far more. Trying small gives you feedback, and feedback is a shortcut. I once advised a young man who wanted to start a high-end clothing line. He had a loan ready and was about to order thousands of dollars in inventory. I told him, start by selling 10 shirts online. No loan, just sell 10. He did. It took him a month. He learned about marketing, pricing, delivery delays, customer feedback, all with a $200 investment. And now, 2 years later, he has a thriving business. Why? Because he tested the soil before planting the whole field. This applies not only to business, but also to your habits. Want to start investing? Don't start with thousands. Begin with a few dollars. Try it. Learn the interface. See how you feel when the market moves. You'll gain confidence without putting your future on the line. Want to launch a side hustle? Don't quit your job tomorrow. Try serving one client or selling one product on the weekend. It's not playing small, it's playing smart. Failure becomes expensive only when it's done carelessly. But when it's done on purpose in a controlled, thoughtful, low-risk way, it becomes the most affordable education you can buy. The rich don't fear failure because they rarely allow it to grow out of proportion. They keep it small, measurable, and instructional. So my advice to you, create your own try small, fail small system. Whether it's business, investing, or even building a skill, start with the smallest possible version. Get real-world feedback. Use it. Tweak it. Then, and only then, scale it up. Because small tests build big confidence. And with enough confidence, failure becomes your stepping stone, not your stopping point. Let me give you a shortcut that most people overlook on the journey to wealth. Don't just study success. Study the scars. The lessons that last the longest aren't hidden in victories. They're buried in defeats. Everyone wants to learn how the wealthy made their millions, But far fewer stop to ask, where did they lose it? When did they stumble? What nearly took them out of the game, and how did they get back in? See, success leaves clues, yes, but so do failures. In fact, failure leaves bigger, louder, bolder lessons if you're paying attention. Now, I'm not talking about becoming a failure junkie. I'm talking about becoming a student of patterns. I make it a habit to read biographies. I don't just want to know what they built. I want to know what they broke. When did they overextend? When did pride blind their judgment? When did they ignore the numbers, trust the wrong person, or move too fast? Because if I can learn from their pain, I won't have to pay the same price myself. That's called borrowed wisdom, and it's a whole lot cheaper than tuition paid with your own time, energy, or money. Let me tell you something. I learned from studying the failures of successful people. I once read about a wealthy real estate investor who lost everything in a downturn. He had leveraged too much, took on properties without proper cash reserves, and ignored market signals. Now, he could have disappeared into the shadows, but instead, he shared it all, his mistakes, the emotions, the turning point. And in that story, I found a principle I still live by today: build margin before momentum. That one line saved me from making a decision years later that could have cost me dearly. You don't have to wait for your own storm to build an umbrella. Others have already walked into the rain and come back soaked. They've already built the shelter. Your job is to visit, observe, and learn. Watch interviews. When wealthy people speak, don't just cheer for their success. Lean in when they talk about their failures. Ask better questions. What would you never do again? What almost ruined everything? What mistake cost you the most? And how did you come back from it? Take notes. Turn their setbacks into your safeguards. You see, broke thinkers study winners and copy their results. Wealthy thinkers study losses and copy the recovery. And that's where the real treasure lies. If you only know how to win, you're unprepared for the game. But if you've studied how others have failed, then you've built a foundation on wisdom, not just excitement. And wealth built on wisdom is wealth that lasts. There was a man I once coached who wanted to scale his business. He had the ambition, the vision, the fire, but he hadn't done the homework. I told him, before you build, go study 3 people who built something similar and lost it. He did. And what he came back with changed his whole structure. He reworked his cash flow model, added legal safeguards, diversified his revenue streams. And guess what? When his industry hit a dip, he didn't crash, he adjusted. Because he had built his strategy on the shoulders of other people's pain. So if you're serious about winning, go back and study some losses, read biographies, watch interviews, sit in on conversations where wealthy people talk about what went wrong. That's not wasted time, that's front row education in the School of Wealth. And the tuition has already been paid by someone else. If you build your strategy on the shoulders of others' hard-earned lessons, you won't just rise. You'll rise wiser, stronger, and wealthier. That's one of the hardest pills to swallow in the world of money, losing it. Whether it's a bad investment, a failed business venture, or lending money to someone who never intended to pay it back, financial loss stings, it shakes your confidence, dents your pride, and if you're not careful, it can break your momentum. But let me offer you a new lens to view it through, one that changed my financial life and has kept me growing for decades. Instead of calling it a loss, call it tuition. That's right, tuition. Because what you just experienced wasn't failure. It was a paid class, a real-world seminar, a lesson with a receipt. I remember losing a sizable amount of money early in my business journey. It wasn't reckless, it was just naive. I trusted someone I hadn't vetted. Promises were made, hands were shaken, but the details weren't clear and no paperwork was done. When the deal collapsed, I was left holding an empty bag. I could have sulked. I could have blamed. I could have told myself I'd never trust again, but I didn't. I sat down, opened my notebook, and at the top of the page I wrote, tuition, $4,000. Underneath that, I titled the lesson, Due Diligence 101. I listed what I did wrong, what I failed to check, what signs I ignored, and what questions I never asked. Let me tell you, that was the most valuable $4,000 I ever spent. Because from that point on, I never entered another agreement without clarity. I never assumed, I confirmed. And that one painful moment became a permanent upgrade in my decision-making process. The wealthy think this way. When they lose money, they don't just walk away wounded, they walk away wiser. Here's a strategy I've shared with entrepreneurs, investors, and employees alike. Every time you lose money, write it down. Label it tuition bill. Then ask yourself, what subject did I just pay for? Maybe it was real estate fundamentals, or don't lend to friends 202. Maybe it was always read the fine print, or stop ignoring red flags. Turn the pain into perspective. Turn the mistake into a manual. Most people don't do this. They lose money and never look back, or worse, they look back only to feel shame, but shame doesn't teach. Reflection does. And when you reflect deliberately, you begin to build a personal textbook of experience. That's how you become dangerous, not in a reckless way, but in a prepared way. You start making decisions with the strength of your own history. Over time, something beautiful happens. You begin to fear less. Not because losses stop, but because you know how to use them. You stop seeing risk as a threat and start seeing it as a teacher. And when you have that kind of mindset, opportunities open up because you're no longer paralyzed by the possibility of loss. You know how to process it, learn from it, and turn it into fuel. I've met people who've lost thousands and learned nothing. I've met others who lost a few hundred and came out 10 times stronger. The difference wasn't the amount, it was the mindset. The first group saw loss as defeat. The second saw it as tuition. That's the dividing line between people who grow richer and those who stay bitter. So, from this moment forward, make yourself a promise. If you ever lose money again, and at some point don't just grit your teeth and move on, pull out your financial journal. Write down the tuition bill, name the course, extract the lesson, and file it away in your mind as one more stepping stone on the path to wealth. Because in the end, there's no wasted money, only unclaimed education. Let me give you a principle that changed the way I looked at money forever. Give more than you charge. That might sound strange in a world driven by price tags and margins. But if you study the people who attract extraordinary wealth, you'll notice a pattern. They consistently over-deliver. They give more than what's expected, more than what's paid for, more than what's required. And the marketplace, with time, always rewards that kind of generosity. You see, money's not just a transaction, it's a reflection. A reflection of value, of trust, of impact. When someone hands you money, they're saying, what you gave me was worth more than what I gave you. That's the secret. The wealthy understand this equation. They build value first. They deliver service with excellence. They pour effort into quality, detail, experience, and because of that, compensation finds them. Now, this isn't about being taken advantage of. This isn't charity. It's strategy. When you consistently give more than you charge, you do two things. You separate yourself from the noise, and you anchor yourself in people's minds as someone worth doing business with again and again. People remember how you made them feel. They remember when something exceeded their expectations. That memory turns into referrals. That memory turns into loyalty. That memory becomes your silent marketing department. I remember when I was just starting out, selling products and ideas, trying to make something happen. And a mentor once said to me, don't aim to make a sale. Aim to make an impression. I took that to heart. If I gave a seminar, I stayed afterward to answer every question. If someone bought a course, I'd send them a handwritten note. Little things, small extras. They didn't cost me much, but they told people something powerful. You matter more than the money. And over time, something remarkable happened. People started calling me, not just because of what I sold, but because of how I served. I wasn't just in business, I was in value creation. And when you make that shift, everything changes. The doors open wider. The conversations become easier. You don't chase opportunity. Opportunity starts chasing you. So ask yourself, how can you over-deliver today? If you're an employee, show up 5 minutes early and solve problems your boss hasn't even noticed yet. If you're in sales, surprise your clients with insights that aren't on the invoice. If you're an entrepreneur, ask what extra thing you can build into your offer that makes someone say, I would have paid double for this. That's not fluff. That's leverage. You want to build wealth? Then build value so strong it echoes. Let your service carry a reputation. Let your product carry a story. Let your effort whisper excellence long after you've gone home for the day. When you do that, people start talking about you in rooms you're not even in. They start recommending you, defending you, investing in you. Not because you demanded it, but because you earned it. And the greatest part? Over-delivering doesn't just affect your income, it affects your character. It trains you to see others, to care, to give, without always measuring. That kind of mindset compounds. It spreads into how you lead, how you parent, how you love. You stop asking, what's in it for me? And start asking, how can I make this moment, this project, this life better for others? So never forget this simple rule. Give more than you charge. Let the marketplace be surprised by your generosity, impressed by your consistency, and humbled by your integrity. When that becomes your standard, wealth doesn't just visit, it moves in and makes itself at home. Let me tell you something that may not sound exciting, but it's absolutely transformative. Wealth is not built in grand moments. It's not a lottery ticket. It's not one lucky break or one viral business. It's not some explosion of fortune out of nowhere. No, real wealth is hidden in the daily, quiet, uncelebrated acts of discipline, the habits, the routines, the small, seemingly boring things that compound over time until one day they produce something the world calls success, but you'll know it was simply consistency in motion. I've often said motivation is a spark, but discipline is the engine. The wealthy don't wait to feel inspired. They don't negotiate with their feelings every morning. They've built systems, patterns, routines, and they follow them whether they feel like it or not. And that's the great secret. If you want to be rich, don't chase excitement, chase unshakable habits. Let me give you a picture of what this looks like. Imagine someone who sets aside 10% of their income before they spend a dime. Not just 1 month, every month. They track every expense not because it's glamorous, but because clarity over money creates control over money. They read 10 pages of a good book every day, not because it makes headlines, but because it sharpens their mind for years. They review their goals weekly. They check in on their investments monthly. They think about growth even while others entertain themselves to death. Now, to the outsider, this looks boring. It doesn't trend. It doesn't sparkle. But inside, something incredible is happening. They're rewiring their brain for focus. They're removing emotion from money decisions. They're compounding wisdom. They're mastering restraint. And over time, their discipline starts to grow roots and then fruit. Wealth becomes the natural result of a life lived with intention. Let me share a little moment from my earlier days. When I was broke, my habits were emotional. I'd spend money I hadn't yet earned. I'd skip saving because I thought, what's the point of saving $10? I was always looking for the big break, the one client, the one deal, the one moment that would change everything. But nothing changed until I did. I started small. I read 15 minutes a day, no exceptions. I began to journal my thoughts about money, about discipline, about what I was learning. I created a ritual where every Friday evening I reviewed my finances for 30 minutes, no matter what. At first it felt trivial, but then a month later I felt clarity. A year later I saw progress. And within a few years I had built something solid, not because of one magical decision, but because of dozens of boring ones, repeated faithfully. This is where most people fail. They want fireworks, but wealth is built with bricks, one at a time. If your habits aren't aligned with your goals, your results will never be either. The wealthy understand this. They guard their morning routines. They protect their thinking time. They automate their savings. They learn before they leap. They do the same things over and over because they work. So, here's what I challenge you to do. Identify 3 small daily habits that move your financial life forward. Something as simple as writing down what you spend, reading for 15 minutes, or setting aside a fixed amount each week. Make them non-negotiable. Don't wait for inspiration. Make them as natural as brushing your teeth. Because when you do the right things long enough, the wrong things lose their power. Remember this. Wealth is not an event. It's a rhythm. And the drumbeat is daily discipline. The quiet, steady work that no one applauds, but everyone respects once they see the results. Let me tell you something most people miss while chasing wealth. They think in days when they should be thinking in decades. They're trying to win the game of life with a stopwatch, when it was always meant to be played with a calendar. You see, the rule of long-term thinking is one of the quietest yet most powerful secrets behind financial prosperity. The wealthy don't ask, what can I get by Friday? They ask, what will this become in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? And because of that question, they make different decisions, better decisions. I've watched people sabotage their future for the thrill of now. They spend what they haven't earned, they invest in what they don't understand. They give up on a business after 3 months thinking it should have already made them a millionaire. But wealth doesn't respond to impatience, it rewards vision. It takes a certain kind of maturity to delay pleasure, to say, I'll sow now and I'll reap later. But that's how empires are built, one patient decision at a time. Let me tell you from personal experience. In my early years, I was like anyone else wanting results fast. I'd try something for a few weeks, and if I didn't see fireworks, I'd quit. But then I started studying the people who were truly wealthy. And I noticed something. They moved slower, but they moved with more certainty. They planted seeds without obsessing over the timeline of the harvest. They invested in skills that took years to master. They bought assets that wouldn't pay off today, but would multiply quietly over time. And when I adopted that mindset, everything changed. It's like planting a tree. You don't water it today and expect a forest tomorrow. You water it today and tomorrow and next week and next year without much to show for it. But 10 years later, you're sitting in the shade of a decision you made long ago, and people look at your success and call it lucky. It wasn't luck, it was long-term thinking. That's why I say don't just chase money, chase direction. If your direction is clear and you're consistent in your action, time becomes your ally. But if you're constantly changing paths, reacting to the market, to emotions, to pressure you stay in motion, but you never make real progress, wealthy people don't just ask, what's profitable today? They ask what will matter in 10 years that still matters today. And that applies to everything, not just money. Think about relationships. Are you building ones that will support your mission in the long run, or just entertaining those who make you feel good in the moment? Think about your health. Are you living for energy, strength, and clarity in your older years, or just convenience and taste today? The long-term thinker builds stability. They live with a vision beyond today's drama. If you want to break free from financial mediocrity, you've got to zoom out, think in decades, build things that last, develop skills that compound. Make investments with the understanding that today's sacrifice is tomorrow's security. The wealthy don't panic during storms because they've been planning for seasons. They don't chase the next shiny thing because they're rooted in their vision. And that's the power you gain when you stop living for the weekend and start living for your legacy. So, ask yourself not, what can I get this week? But what can I build over the next 10 years that will matter to my family, my finances, my future? Because wealth doesn't happen quickly, it happens quietly. And it always belongs to the ones who think the furthest ahead. Now, as we bring our time together to a close, I want you to pause and really take in what you've heard, because this conversation about wealth, about discipline, about mindset is not just words. It's the framework for changing your life. The seeds of transformation don't come from wishing or hoping or waiting for luck. They come from clarity. They come from intentionality. They come from the daily decisions you make that push you, inch by inch, closer to your destiny. We live in an age where distractions are endless, and the noise of confusion is deafening. People chase after the next quick fix, the latest scheme, the shortcut that promises fortune overnight. But here's the truth that most don't want to hear. Wealth is never an accident. It's the result of consistent, purposeful thinking and disciplined action repeated over time. It's about building a foundation so strong that no storm can shake it. And that foundation is you. It starts with your mindset. What you believe about yourself and your potential is the invisible architecture of your entire financial future. If you think like a victim, you will act like a victim, and your results will confirm it. But if you think like a person capable of growth, change, and contribution, your results will follow. It's not magic, it's psychology in motion. I want you to remember that the biggest obstacle to your wealth is not the economy, your background, or even your education. It's your thinking. What you tell yourself every day is far more important than what anyone else says about you. Your mind can be your greatest prison or your greatest liberation. And freedom begins with awareness of your habits, your beliefs, your daily choices. As you've heard today, clarity is the compass. Without clarity, you wander. Without purpose, you drift. But with clear vision and intentional purpose, every step you take has meaning and direction. Write down your vision. Make it plain. Describe exactly what financial freedom looks like to you. Not in vague terms, but in crisp, measurable goals. What amount of money will create security for you? What habits will you develop? What skills will you master? And what legacy will you leave behind? Because wealth is not merely about numbers in a bank account. It's about the life you build, the people you serve, the impact you create. It's about freedom. Freedom of time, freedom of choice, freedom to live on your own terms. And that freedom starts when you take control of your thinking. But knowing what to do and actually doing it are two very different things. That's where discipline comes in. Discipline is the bridge between your goals and your reality. It's easy to dream, but it takes uncommon discipline to follow through every single day. The wealthy understand that success is never a straight line. It's a series of small intentional steps, some forward, some back, but always moving toward the goal. I know from my own journey that the path to wealth is paved with both failures and successes. The difference is in how you respond. Rich people don't fear failure. They welcome it as feedback. Every mistake is a lesson. Every setback is a stepping stone. When you learn to analyze your failures honestly, without blame or shame, you extract wisdom that compounds like interest on an investment. That wisdom shapes your next move and sharpens your strategy. So I challenge you. When failure knocks, don't run or complain. Sit down with it. Ask what it has to teach you. Write it down in your failure journal. Let it be your tuition, your education, your guide. Because the person who learns most from failure is the person who wins. Another truth that often separates the wealthy from the rest is their respect for time. Time is the one capital that can never be replaced. The way you spend your time is a direct reflection of how seriously you take your future. The rich don't fritter time away on distractions or short-lived pleasures. They invest their hours as carefully as they invest their dollars, learning, planning, building, and growing. Time compounded with purpose creates exponential results. So I ask you, how are you spending your time? Are your daily activities aligned with your vision, or are you trading precious hours for fleeting entertainment? Build a schedule that honors your dreams. Guard your time like your most precious asset, because it is. And let's talk about the company you keep. Your circle of influence shapes your thinking and your outcomes more than you might realize. People who settle for mediocrity drag you down. Those who strive for excellence pull you up. Wealthy people surround themselves with mentors, peers, and friends who challenge their thinking, inspire growth, and hold them accountable. If you want to break free from broke thinking, You must upgrade your associations. The culture of your circle will determine the culture of your success. But the most powerful principle of all is this: take full responsibility for your life. Stop blaming external circumstances, the economy, your upbringing, or luck. The wealthy don't wait for conditions to be perfect. They act despite uncertainty. They say, here is what I control, and I will master it. When you own your decisions, your habits, your mindset, you reclaim your power, and with power comes possibility. Now this is your moment. You can leave here today with your dreams scattered and vague, or you can walk away with a plan, a purpose, and a renewed commitment to yourself. The future belongs to those who prepare for it today. The legacy you want to build starts with the decisions you make right now. So here is my call to action for you. Begin today by writing down your vision. Make it clear, make it bold, make it measurable. Then, identify one discipline you can start building immediately. It might be tracking your expenses, reading 10 pages of a financial book daily, or scheduling a weekly reflection on your progress. Next, evaluate your time in your circle. Where can you improve? What distractions can you cut? Who can you learn from or partner with? Remember, wealth is a marathon, not a sprint. It's the sum of small, consistent efforts repeated over time. Keep going, even when it feels hard. Keep growing, even when progress seems slow. The rewards come to those who are patient and purposeful. In closing, I want you to remember this. Your life and your wealth are reflections of your philosophy. Change your thinking and you change your world. The power to build the life you want is in your hands. Take it, use it, own it. You don't have to wait for a better day, a perfect plan, or a lucky break. Start now. The wealth you desire is not out there waiting to be found. It is within you, waiting to be cultivated. And so I say to you, rise with purpose, act with discipline, and create a legacy worth living and worth leaving. Thank you.